but it's easier for me just to email them.
All right.
I upload and I send you a link.
Okay.
Much easier. So we'll have the original file that we're going to watch here, but then as we watch it, we'll be creating another file of our discussion and everything. Hey, Jim, if you want, you can grab a stool there if you want, or you can stand.
I'm good.
You're okay? Yeah. You warm enough?
Yeah, I just hopped on one leg here.
Okay. So we'll do above the water from this side. So you get a good chance to watch yourself swim.
Oh, okay. Already I see I'm lifting my head too much, probably.
No, everybody's swimming. They're like to criticize themselves. Okay. So I'll back it up. We'll slow it down. All kinds of things. So your head position, let's talk about a few things here, is we'll see when we're underwater. We'll see we're underwater that typically you might have heard or read that you should keep your head looking straight down.
Mm-hmm.
And you look pretty much towards the bottom of the pool most of the time, and probably more like this. We're actually going to get you. We want to work to get you looking a little bit more out front, and I'm going to tell you why as we go through this. Okay, not a big deal there, but it is important to have a little bit of head up so we can start seeing what's happening with our arms. Most people don't see their arms. Do you see your arms at all when they're out front?
I wouldn't. I don't know.
There you go. So therefore you don't.
Oh, okay.
You would know it. So one of the things we'll work on is making sure you start feeling what's going on with your hands and arms out front. Another thing we'll work on, and this is not as pretty good, is how we spear in the water as we come over the top. We want to get ourselves in a position for a good catch. So you'll see we want to have fingertips coming in first, followed by the elbow. And on the right side, let's follow it through. Right. It's more laying your hand in the water. It's kind of gentle. We want to get to where we learn to spear. We want to spear more. You see how sort of the hand is sort of laying into the water? We want to learn more of a spear action, as if imagine you're spear fishing and you're more diving down into the water like that, as opposed to
get
just
under first. Huh?
We're going to get under quick. All right.
Oh.
All right. We'll talk about that as a common theme today. Now you did mention, Judy, about your head, especially when it is when you're not breathing. It's probably looking a little bit too far down.
Mm-hmm.
But I think your concern is when I'm breathing, you'll see your head start.
Well, I could see it pop up.
Pops
right
up,
there.
right?
Yeah.
It's like a crane. Crane
Yeah.
wants to look up.
And I never noticed that.
Right. So one thing I want to talk about here is as you're swimming along and your head's down, you get what we call a bow wave, like on the front of a boat. This little wave
Mm-hmm.
that builds up in front of you. You see how it's built up there?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll zoom in on it, make sure you can see it. Oops. It's this buildup of water.
Right.
All this here. Now, if we continue ahead, you'll notice what happens to the bow wave when you lift your head up. See, it goes away. And then you say, well, so what?
You lift your head. And
so why is that important? Well, when we have a good bow wave, you have a little trough that develops. Sorry, I'm going to have a little bit of a cold. And that allows you a good place to breathe in. So when we lift our head, that goes away, and that little cavity of water goes away. So we keep our head low, we keep the bow wave, and it gives us a nice place to breathe in. So that's a couple of the reasons why we want to not lift our head. And when we lift our head, another thing that happens is as we lift our head up, it'll tend to drop our legs a bit.
Feet go down.
Your feet will go down a bit. Now, this is not a big concern for you because you do have fairly good balance. So how we can tell if you have good balance is you'll see your heels just breaking the surface of the water there.
Oh, I can't even see that. Oh,
You see
right
here? Right? They just break the surface of the water. So you have pretty good balance. But we'll take a good look at your balance as we get underwater. So from the side, the main thing we'll work on is not lifting the head, and we're going to get better at spearing into the water. So there's a couple things we'll work on. Now let's go above.
there. How am I going to remember this stuff?
Don't worry, don't worry. We're going to do a bunch of drills and things out there.
All right.
So you'll remember these things. Because we're repeat them so many times a day.
Okay.
So the only thing we had so far is not lifting of the head. So we're going to be doing drills for this, and then learning to spear in the water. It's going to be a common thing of what we do. You will remember. Okay, so above the water, let you watch a bit. All right, so let's analyze it a bit. So the first one of the key things we're going to work on today is called posture and alignment. And one of the key things we want to do as you as you swim is having good alignment in the water. And one of the key things in doing that is as we extend our arm forward, that it doesn't cross to the center line of our body. So if we put a nice line through our body here, that our arms don't cross that center line. And you do a pretty good job at that. Well, now my center line's off, so it doesn't count. So we're just going to be watching the arms here. As you come in here, we want to extend out from the shoulder. You can do that quite well. There's no crossover. And we'll see a different thing with Jim.
Wonderful.
But we all have our difficulties. Now a little bit here, you'll notice how the arm is starting to come across the center line this way. So we want to keep things a little bit more straight out front. So the right arm has a bit of a crossover, the left arm does not. And why that's important, this is something I definitely will show you later, Jim, but we'll cover both now. You already referred to Mr. Smooth, right? So here we go. Compare. And we'll bring up John Van Hazel. John Van Hazel is the swimmer they used to create Mr. Smooth.
Oh.
So he'll look familiar in terms of his style. And one thing we really appreciate about John Van Hazel is how straight he is in the water.
Oh, he sure is.
It's just nice and straight. So he's almost like a visualization you can put in your head is to swim like Jono, and I actually do that. So from this angle in particular, one good visualization is if we think about a tunnel that we're trying, or a corridor that we're trying to keep everything in. You'll see how his hands stay in that corridor as he extends and strokes. And if he keeps everything in the corridor, his legs in the back also stay in that corridor.
So
he's streamlined.
He's not doing
fishtailing. I call that fishtailing. Okay, so being nice and straight right in front of the shoulder is really important to us. So we had a little bit with Judy of crossing over, and one of the things we're concerned about when we swim is what are we doing in our stroke that causes funny things to happen with our legs. So, and what I mean by that is splaying of the legs. You'll see it coming up here. Her legs scissor kick.
To balance.
Oh my God.
Right? So it's called, he's right. You can call it scissor kicking if you want. Splaying of the legs.
Oh my God.
You have no idea you're doing this, right? But for you, Judy, the reason it's happening is you'll see the amount of rotation you have when you breathe. If I circle one shoulder, if I circle the other one, it's going to be right underneath this one. So your shoulders are basically stacked. When you do that, your body becomes unstable in the water on that side. So your body reacts by doing that. So we don't want to say keep your legs in. We want to say let's control your rotation. And there's a drill that we'll do today to help correct your over rotation. Now we go to the other side.
And it's not as much.
Here you're not breathing. You still get a bit of, even though you're not breathing, even when you're not breathing, you're still pretty stacked. Shoulder here, and again that causes the splaying of the legs. Not as severe, but it's still happening. So if you think about basically what we're concerned about this is all the drag that this causes in the water. When everything's nice and streamlined, about drafting on a bike or drafting as a swimmer, you want your legs to draft off of your torso more than anything. Now on this side, it's not as bad. It's mainly when you're not as far rotated. See here, if I circle your shoulders, you have one here, much better. So therefore, your legs don't react and do the big splay. A bit, but not bad. So from this angle, the main thing we're going to work on is not over-rotating to the right, balancing you out. That'll help your legs not splaying out and causing all this drag. Okay? All right, let's see what we can see from underwater. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start from the back. And you'll notice and this is something we will work on today, is your leg kick, right? And right there is a perfect example. You see how much it's bent?
Yeah.
Right? You're spending a lot of effort kicking that's not doing you a lot of good. So a lot of wasted energy. So basically, having a bent leg kick, basically that's mostly your quad doing the work. You're kicking. It takes your quad to do that sort of bend. So what we're going to learn today, and maybe we'll do this together, is we want you to kick from the glutes. You want the glutes to do the work. You want your knees to be soft, and any bending that occurs in your knees, your ankles, is just natural bending based on the leg doing. If I was thinking about it, right now I'm doing my arm, and any bending is just from the natural just movement. So we want to have soft knees. We want to drive it from the hips. So again, if you think about even here, you have all this. Now you have drag occurring against your legs. So we're going to learn to keep yourself more streamlined. Okay, so less bent leg kicking. Simple as that. All right. So we don't have too big of a list yet. All right, so now we'll focus on front. And the key thing we're going to watch on the front is as the arms enter. Remember I talked about spearing in, and I've seen, and we want to get a little bit better at that. And one of the key things we're going to talk about today is here we have your elbow. Oops, wrong one. Your elbow to your wrist to your fingertips. We're going to talk a lot about those things. What you want to remember is you want fingertips below the wrist and wrist below the elbow. And so we're going to practice that today. And we'll just take a look at the other side. as it enters there. You're fairly flat.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not real bad, but we're going to get better at that.
So that tends to push the legs down also when you're flat out.
Well,
like
you'll
that.
see what's about to happen. Right, you're right. So what's about to happen. So we prefer getting the position more like this as we get extended. All right, because now as Judy starts the stroke, you'll see the direction that her arm moves. She basically goes straight down. So when she moves straight down, so she moves the water down, it'll tend to lift her chest up because she's pushing down, which will cause legs to go down. Exactly right.
Oh my God.
I know this because I do
9 out of 10 swimmers do this. 9 out of 10, easy. So the other arm, again, if this arm is actually, it's a little bit, because of your breathing here, it's actually a little, see the hand's kind of high.
Yeah.
So we'll work on that. And again, the direction you're pushing water is primarily down. And then you start
Should
pushing.
my elbow be bent at that
Oh,
point?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that in the next angle. That is the number one. So we're going to work on streamlining with you. I'll teach you how to do that. Streamlining with you, as far as not over rotating and keeping your head down on your breath, and then getting the good catch. So I'm going to use this as an example here. If you look at your eyes, you're looking pretty straight down.
Mm-hmm.
This is why you don't see what's going on out here with your hands. What we want to do is get you in a position you're looking more about here. So then you'll be able to start, in your peripheral vision, start seeing what your hands are doing. Because that's the most important part of our stroke, is what our hands and our arms are doing. Okay, so the issues here, just a review, the overkick, a little high on the hands on the front and pushing down, and we're going to learn how to push the water back. So what we'll do here is we'll compare with another swimmer. This is Rebecca Adlington. You might remember the name Janet Evans.
Mm-hmm.
So she had one of the longest running world records in the 800 meter. So this is the lady that broke her world record. Rebecca Adlington out of the UK. And the thing we're going to watch with Rebecca is exactly the thing we're talking about. So as she gets extended here, how she gets her fingertips below her wrist,
Mm-hmm.
and her wrist below her elbow. Because then she's in a position, we call it the catch setup. She's now set up to have a good catch. And you're exactly right, Judy, about the elbow. So if we come on through, you'll see her elbows bending.
I had no idea my arm was.
And you'll notice that as she starts the stroke, that from the wrist, to the elbow to the fingertips, the lower arm is moving, but her upper arm, from her shoulder to her elbow, isn't moving. So I just go frame by frame. You see her upper arm isn't even moving, because all the movement is happening from the elbow to the fingertips. And we'll practice this today. And then she pushes the water through. She gets the elbow bent, and the only thing that's moved is this part of her arm's gone from, say, her hand's gone from here to here without the upper arm moving, and then she pushes the water back. So her catch setup, fingertips below wrist, wrist below elbow, and then the high elbow, bent elbow to push the water back. And we will go through some drills today for you on that. Okay, just want to show you a comparison there. I do notice Judy makes good bubbles while she's breathing. So we might practice a little bit of bubbles. But
Too many bubbles?
No, there's no such thing. We want to have good continuous bubbles. All right, so that's all good. So now we'll go to head on. And the main thing we want to look at head on is what's the positions of the angles of the arm as they're pulling through. Now, you talked about this bent arm idea, and you'll notice this on the left especially, we'll go backwards, you do accomplish a bent arm in the stroke, say there. It's early in the stroke that we want to get the bent arm happening sooner. So now it's very straight, it's still straight, and then you start to create the bent arm. So we're going to learn today how to create this sooner. So if you look at, sometimes we like to look at angles just for, we like to be between 100 and 120, and you're there, but it takes you a while to get into that. So we just want to get into a bent. As soon as you get extended, you should be going into. Remember, I showed you earlier that with Rebecca, her upper arm, this part of her arm, wasn't. Whoops.
It stayed high.
It stayed high as this arm got the catch on the water. So if we watch yours, they're both moving, and then you get into it there. So on the other side, extend, straight arm, straight arm, straight arm, and and then you get a little bit of bent there, but you can see how the angle's quite open. It's quite open, and where we want to be more, in a position, say, like this, more under your shoulder. And what we'll do here, we'll take another look at Rebecca from this point of view. So her upper arm is staying still as she gets that forearm into a more vertical position in preparation to pushing the water back. So from here to here is not creating a lot of propulsion. It's getting herself set up. Now she's in the position to really push the water back. So this early catch is not so much for the purpose of propulsion, but it gets us set up for propulsion.
So it feels like when you finish the stroke, that's when you really get a lot of power and launches you into the catch part on the other side.
Sure. Well, I think the key thing there is that when you get extended, that you're going to work on getting the catch. You're not going to rush it. You're going to get out there, okay, get myself in that good position, and now push the water back. That's the mindset. So you'll see, if you think about that mindset, Rebecca's there. She's thinking, okay, I get a good catch on the water. Take my time, now push it back. Get a good catch on the water, now push it back. She's almost relaxed through this phase, but once she gets here, then she really gets aggressive. And the last thing I'm going to point out here, which I was earlier, just to reiterate, is the head position. Here where your hands are out here, but there's no way you know what your hands are doing.
Right.
There's a term called proprioceptive feedback. We want to be able to see something so it comes back to us so you can learn from it. Why we want to get our head up a little bit. And you'll notice the difference when we're breathing and not breathing. Remember when we followed this arm earlier and how it was bent? Now we're going to take a look at one when you are breathing. So you're breathing now, how much straighter the arm stays. And do that over rotation. And it never really gets bent till the end. For this one, we recover that. This arm here, when it's much better. But when you breathe that side, so we got to watch this. Is learn how to not over rotate, not how to pull through. Okay, So this is a review here. It's not so bad. Lifting of the head when you breathe. I'm going through the different views. From the side. Sorry about the noise, but I can't do about it.
No, I'm just so cold that I'm going to.
Are you still cold?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm going to get my coat when you start talking to Jim.
Okay.
Where are the car keys?
Then we'll be done in just a minute. So, lifting the head when you breathe, critical. Over rotation, causing the legs to splay and the arm to go straight. That's going to be the number 2 thing we work on, keeping it nice and streamlined. The kick, that's number 3. And number 4 is this catch, getting this catch. So that's going to be the 4 things that we really work on.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
I'll give you a short list. Not too many. It's only 4.
Let me grab the car keys.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.